I'm the biological daughter they finally tracked down after 18 years. According to the script of every soap opera ever written, this is the part where I scream, cry, and demand justice. But looking at the scene in front of me, I just felt exhausted. My biological mother, Mrs. St. Clair, was death-gripping the girl who replaced me. Her knuckles were white, her face a mask of tragic conflict. I know you're our flesh and blood, Riley, she sobbed, but Sloane has been our daughter for 18 years. We can't just delete her from our lives. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke a horse. Everyone was waiting for my explosion. They wanted the drama. I just nodded thoughtfully. Makes sense. 18 years of shared history versus 18 years of a DNA match? I'd pick the history, too. Blood is just a biological coin flip. Shared experiences are a massive sunk cost. It would be fiscally irresponsible to abandon that investment. My mom looked like she'd just been hit by a glitch in the Matrix. My calm logic was not on her bingo card for today. Beside her, my fiancé, a man arranged for the St. Clair heiress, flicked a check at my face. Take the cash and vanish, he sneered. I don't date charity cases from the sticks. A normal girl would tear it up. A protagonist in a romance novel would throw a drink in his face to preserve her dignity. I picked up the check and inspected the zeros. That's fair, I said, pocketing it securely. Forced chemistry is a vibe killer, and getting a severance package for a breakup is honestly top-tier professional courtesy. You're a generous employer. I mean, ex-fiancé. Hudson looked absolutely floored. I didn't care. I had work to do. Chapter 1, The Merger and Acquisition Meeting. The AC in the St. Clair mansion was blasting, but the air smelled distinctly of pick-me-girl energy. Sloane, the girl who had been living my main character life for nearly 2 decades, was putting on a masterclass in victimization. She was crying in 4K resolution, perfectly manicured tears, shoulders shaking, acting like she was 1 second away from a total mental breakdown. Mrs. St. Clair looked at me with a messy cocktail of guilt and defensiveness. Riley, although you're the biological heir, Sloane is our heart. You can't just expect us to cut those ties. We need her. Please, try to understand the position we're in. My father stood nearby, hands behind his back. His silence was basically an NDA for his emotions. They were bracing for a fight. They expected me to play the role of the jealous, uncultured intruder. I rubbed my temples. This meeting could have been an email. I get it. Totally understandable, I said, breaking the silence. Sloane's sobbing stopped instantly. Her lash extensions fluttered, she clearly wasn't expecting me to be so chill. Mrs. St. Clair blinked. You're not mad? I sat down in a designer armchair, relaxing like I was at a low-stakes quarterly review. It's basic logic, I explained, counting on my fingers. 18 years of emotional bonding versus 18 years of DNA? Emotional bonding wins every time. Blood is a biological RNG, random number generator. Time spent is a non-refundable investment. I gestured to Sloane's Chanel dress, then to my own thrifted hoodie. You've spent 18 years pouring capital, time, and branding into her. She's a maxed out, high-level account. Asking you to switch to a level 1 new game character like me is a bad business move. I respect the economics of it. The room went dead silent. Mrs. St. Clair looked like she'd swallowed a bug. She wanted to argue, but my logic had her in a chokehold. It's hard to argue with cold, hard facts. I looked at Sloane. Keep crying, don't let me stop you. Think of me as the new intern, just here to learn the corporate. Family culture. Chapter 2, The HR Complaint. Sloane was clearly a pro-level player in the game of family politics. After a second of confusion, she pivoted her strategy. She pulled away from Mrs. St. Clair, walked over with puppy dog eyes, and reached out a trembling hand. Riley, I'm so sorry. I feel like I've stolen your life. If it makes it easier, I can move out. Classic move. The sacrificial lamb gambit. If I accepted her offer, I'd look like a monster. If I rejected it aggressively, I'd look like a bully. I looked at her perfectly manicured hand, didn't touch it, and instead handed her a wet wipe from my bag. Don't be dramatic, I said flatly. This house is deeded to Mr. and Mrs. St. Clair. Legally, we're both just dependents in this ecosystem. I switched to my best consultant voice. Besides, consider the logistics. Where would you go? You have 0 assets in your name and no independent income stream. You'd get scammed by a landlord or go broke at a hotel within a week. As a rational actor, staying here is your best ROI, return on investment. If I were you, I'd squat here as long as possible. Sloane's hand froze in midair. She had a whole script of tragic lines ready, and I'd just hit her with a reality check about the rental market. Her love conquers all performance just got debunked by my homelessness is expensive realism. My father finally snapped. Riley, watch your mouth. Sloane is your sister. This is her home. I nodded immediately, like an employee taking notes from a CEO. Copy that, Mr. St. Clair. Sloane has permanent residency. So, regarding resource allocation, where's my cubicle? My room? He winced at me calling him Mr. St. Clair. It was too cold, too professional. The house manager will show you to the guest wing, he grumbled. Chapter 3, Office Space. The house manager was a guy in his 50s who looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off the bottom of his shoe. Clearly, the office politics in this house were already established, and I was on the losing team. He led me to a room at the very end of the second floor. Miss Riley, space is tight, he sniffed. Miss Sloane has a lot of wardrobe requirements, so she occupies 2 suites. You'll have to make do with this. The room was shady, with a tiny window, a single bed, and 1 closet. No desk. In comparison, when we passed Sloane's room, I saw a walk-in closet, a balcony, and a full aesthetic pink setup that probably cost more than my entire education. Most people would feel humiliated. I just looked around and nodded with satisfaction. Not bad, I noted. Low light is good for REM sleep, small square footage saves on heating bills, and it's far from the stairs, so zero noise pollution. It's highly efficient. The sarcastic lines the manager had prepared hit nothing but air. He looked at me in disbelief. Miss Riley, you aren't offended? I dropped my duffel bag and pulled out my laptop. Why would I be? I'm an external hire, brand new to the company. I mean, home. No performance history, no seniority. Getting a private office on day one is already a win. Did I expect the corner office immediately? I looked at him sincerely. By the way, what's the Wi-Fi password? Is the upload speed good? I have work tonight. The manager opened his mouth, mumbled a string of numbers, and walked away defeated. He wanted a reaction, but I don't give reactions for free. I closed the door, connected to the Wi-Fi, and checked the stock market. Humiliation is an emotion. Emotions don't pay the rent. Efficiency does. Chapter 4, The Team Building Dinner. Dinner was so awkward it caused physical indigestion. Mrs. St. Clair, trying to perform Mother of the Year, kept piling food onto Sloane's plate. Sloane, baby, you look thin. Eat this. Sloane shot me a provocative look and used her best baby voice. Thanks, Mommy, you're the best. Mr. St. Clair also served Sloane soup. The three of them were a perfect stock photo family, and I was just a stranger sharing a table at a crowded restaurant. I kept my head down, eating fast but neatly. Years of the corporate grind taught me to finish a meal in 5 minutes. Lunch breaks are billable hours, essentially. Mrs. St. Clair finally found her conscience and put a rib in my bowl. Riley, eat something. Don't just focus on the rice. The rib was covered in cilantro, something Sloane famously hated, and apparently, they assumed I would love. I stared at the rib. I hate cilantro. It tastes like soap. Sloane jumped in immediately, sensing blood in the water. Is Riley picky? I guess in the boonies you didn't get high-quality ribs like this, right? I put down my chopsticks and wiped my mouth with a napkin. I'm not picky. I'm full. I stood up and gave a slight, professional bow to my parents. Thank you for the hospitality. The meal was adequate. If there are no further action items, I'll return to my room to process some work. Mr. St. Clair paused. Work. You just got back. You won't stay and chat? I checked the wall clock. It is 7:30 p.m., which is legally personal time. Also, you guys seem to have great synergy. Me inserting myself into the conversation would disrupt the team dynamic. As a new hire. I mean, newcomer, I need to read the room. I turned and left, leaving 3 confused faces behind me. I faintly heard Mrs. St. Clair complain, that child is like a robot. Zero emotional intelligence. The corner of my mouth twitched up. Emotional intelligence? That's for humans. In your eyes, I'm just an intruder with a biological link. Talking about emotions is a luxury. Talking about protocols is much safer.